No problem. In the name of Allah.
All right.
We are going to study the method of induction. At previous section, we talk about the critics of induction. And now we are going to scan or study the answers which the latter defender of induction have raised. So here we focus on the critics and the answers about induction. As we studied in the previous section, we told that there are many critics about the method of induction, but we just refer to most important critics which have been illustrated in the academic discussions, and one of them was about the reality that no one can see or hear and in general observe in the same manner as the other person. So we don't have two observations which are the same at all aspects, let alone that we have many observations about one subject. In other words, when we don't have two same observations, how we can obtain many observations which are the same? And as you know, the first step in the induction was observation. And these critics rule out the induction from the scientific method because its first step cannot be obtained. So it is clear?
Yes, sir.
What I have told is clear. Whenever there are some ambiguity, please tell to me and I will illustrate it more. And
Sure.
the second objection about induction was that when you say that the observations must be many, how much do you mean? If you tell that it must be 100, I will ask you why it must be 100, why it was not 110. And if you reply and say that their observations must be more than 100. For example, 200. I will ask you again and say why it must be 200. Is there any problem that it must not be 300? So we don't have any final response to this objection. And we will tell you about the third objection. The third objection is that you refer to the variety of observations. For example, if we want to observe some water to understand what it's in which degree it will be boiled, maybe we observe the water of sea. Maybe it would observe the water of rain. But how we can understand that the level of water would infect our observation? For example, if we observe the water in the level under the sea level, it must be boiled more than 100 degrees. But if we observe the water on the mountain, on the higher than the sea level, the degree must be less than 100. How we can guess that the level would affect our observation? No one can guess. So the variety as the condition for observations has no idea to tell us about what must be the variety. And the fourth objection was about that if the observations will take us to a general rule about the nature, why many scientists reject their previous idea and give another idea which is very different from the previous idea. A theory, for example, from Newton would be rejected by Einstein, and the theories of Einstein would be rejected by quantum physics, and so on. So we can say that these theories indeed are not about the nature itself. There are many problems which makes these theories incorrect. But the defender of induction give several answers to these questions. For example, the first answer is that when we say that observations must be too much, too many, but you maybe say that we don't have a criterion for this number, for this quantity, we can answer that no problem. We wouldn't illustrated a rule, a law about nature. We can say that what we said was just some probability. Probability means that maybe nature would behave so, and maybe it wouldn't behave so. So by the word probability, we can reject several objections to induction. For example, you said that many observations are not the same. No problem, but the similarity between these observations can tell us that there are some relations between these two facts, although we cannot obtain certainty, but we can obtain probability, and this probability will help us to know about the nature. Here we can say that probability became a key word in scientific method. Any scientist, when he will want to say about the nature, he tries to use the word probability. For example, 80%, the sun will be rise tomorrow. When we ask why you don't say 100%, he says, maybe there are some problems make this rule rejected. Because of that fact, I say 80%. This theory can infer the nature 90%. It means that I believe that there are some conditions maybe I can't understand them and I can't know them, so I will say 90% because there are 10% for the vice versa. And by this response, the induction can be known as a good method for scientific inquiries. It is clear?
Yes.
Inshallah, clear.
Yes.
There isn't any questions, any ambiguity?
So far, it's
Yeah.
not, sir.
Yeah. Upon these responses, there are many scientists began to research about the foundations of scientific method. They came to the fact that although the scientific method induction wouldn't give us certainty, but it would give us several facts that would be help us to know about the nature. Especially when the probability would be in high level, or as some scientists says, a strong possibility. Here we can say that mathematics, which discuss of the level of percent, for example, and what we say amar. I mean that studying the level of percent, statistics means amar, or for example, we say 40% would be that, 50% would be that. The statistics, which is the subject of some mathematics, would be very important in the scientific method. And it can solve many problems of induction. But here is some objection which statistics cannot answer, cannot reject. The objection is that suppose we study many cases and we use our best method to illustrate these observations, but there is no justification for telling that the coming cases are the same as the previous cases. In other words, there is no justification for generalization. And when we don't have a generalization, how we can say about the coming cases? In other words, we don't have any predication. And when we don't have predication, all sciences are nothing, just the history. and the history wouldn't help any scientific society. And actually, this objection is what David Hume, the England, the British scientist, has said before 200 years. He said that the induction cannot be a good method for scientific observations, the scientific method, because it cannot tell us about the nature. There isn't any justified generalization, and we wouldn't have prediction. It is clear? Yes?
Ustad, I have question.
No problem. Tell your question.
Sorry. If the induction method has weakness and many problems to show the truth, but in Islamic teaching, Allah also ordered to look at the universe to determine there is great creator. As he says, do you not see how Allah acts on Ashabul Fil and many other verses like this?
Yes, you know that here we are going to study the scientific method. And through scientific method, we want to obtain a general rule, general law about the nature. But what we have in all context or text, religious text, is something different. Why? Because we are going to discuss here by the word, the sentences which are used by scientists. So here we are centralized on the scientific method, and you can ask some questions about the relation between scientific method and religious method. But you know that this is a question, another question, which is not related to all discussions immediately. And here we want to criticize the idea that, this is very important, the idea that there isn't any method, just observation. We want to say that this idea is not correct. But what is correct? This is another question. Here we are not going to answer the last question. It is obvious?
All right.
Yeah. There isn't any other question?
ولی استاد ببخشید با فارسی حرف میزنم.
بفرمایید.
اگر اونها اونطوری میگه، اگر ما صحبت میکنیم رابطه با خدا، ولی من از این لحاظ میبینم که این نیچه هم دیگه این مگه نگفته مشاهده، این اندوکشن یکی از ارکانش مشاهده است. خب این حرف مشاهده ای است که ما باید به این جهان نگاه کنیم. خیلی یعنی از مقام بالا، یعنی اون صاحب نیچه به ما فرمود که برای انتقاد از این مردم، از این که ما اعتقاد نداریم، یعنی هنوز نمیفهمیم در محوریت نیچه یعنی راب داره، یعنی این هم از لحاظ علمی یا ساینس هیچ چیزی نداریم که راب نداره یعنی اکتر
Yes, yes.
creator.
Yeah. You
Yes.
know that there are two aspects of discussing about the observation. One aspect is that we discuss observation as a first step for induction. And we criticize observation because some scientists insist that observation is the same, observation is very important, observation is the first step of induction. But the other discussions is that what is the rule of observation in religious studies? There are differences between these two discussions. I'm going here to discuss the first question, not the rule and the status of observation in religious studies. Yes, when we want to speak about the religious method for knowing about nature, I will begin by criticizing observation and rational method and other methods. But here, there is two different discussions. Yes, in the religious discussions, I will say that, for example, observation would be a good method, but there are some conditions. What are these conditions? Is another discussions. Here we other question discussion. We are not here to discuss it. So if there isn't any question, I will continue illustrating the issue. Yeah. There isn't any question? Yeah.
Not yet.
As you know, when somebody have a cold, he would go to hospital. Even a Muslim, when he has cold, he would go to hospital. And actually, the person who criticized the induction method, when he has cold, he would go to hospital. But can we ask him, if you reject the induction, how you go to a hospital? You know that in hospital, there are many ways to give you some thing to eat and became good, and you would be healthy, but all of them are upon the induction, and you reject the induction. He has a good answer. He would say that, although I know that induction is not a good method, and in other words, is not a valid method, but I think that induction is a useful method. By useful, he means that induction helps me to obtain or help my health and became recovered, and it is something useful. So usefulness, and as some scientists says, being useful is a criterion for scientific method. So whenever a scientist obtain a good manner, good method for solving some problems, because of the fact that that problem would be solved, the method would be good, and the method would be known as a good method for solving problems. But you know, there are some other criticizing to this idea. Who can tell us the objection to this idea? No problem. I tell it myself. The most important objection is that who can tell us that something is useful or something else is not useful? Maybe what we realized as a useful method will be known as a not useful but harmful method. You know that there are many methods for tablets or something else, such as what the scientists introduced to us, for example, heart treatment. For example, tablet, a special tablet is very good for heart. But how we can say that it is not harmful for lung, it is not harmful for brain, it is not harmful for example, liver or other parts of body? Who can tell us? I know some bodies, some persons, some people who eat tablets for heart treatment, but they died because of the harmful infection of tablets on other parts of body. And what the scientist has realized as a useful actually was harmful for other part of body, so that the patient die. And so we want to speak about usefulness and harmfulness in induction method, or actually in scientific method. And we can say that until we figure out, we understand the criterion of usefulness, we don't have any valid method in knowing about nature. And in social sciences, the problem is more serious, more complication. And we can say that in social sciences, just one incorrect decision can make the society feel very harmful and can make the society disintegrated, because the social sciences relates to social communications. And when the social communications became harmful, the society would be disintegrated. The total of all discussions is that the total result of all discussions is that in scientific method, we cannot just rely on usefulness, and even this criterion would be harmful for all sciences, especially social sciences. If there is any question, please tell the question, and if there isn't question, we continue our discussions.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
And yeah, probably I have a question, or maybe, I mean, I need some more clearer explanations and examples that there are the problems of induction in social sciences, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
My questions, and also in my experiences in utilizing or use the inductions method in qualitative research in social sciences, for instance, how to how to be able to represent the probability and samples or numbers, for instance, numbers of people that we take purposely to interview. So the problems is how many, for instance, to say that those people or those number is represent of the population, for instance. So my question is how to identify and how do we able to take examples or samples or numbers of certain populations to represent the conclusions. Thank you.
Yeah. First, I'm going to repeat your question until I understand that I took the question correctly or not. You said that beside the natural sciences, there is social sciences. And for example, the first step of induction was observation. And in social sciences, how we can come to a good observations about the social life. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. You know that what we say about the natural sciences, for example, the objections I referred to, is are what we say is about the social sciences, but in the higher level, or in other words, with a higher degree, we can get objections about social sciences. Why? Because in the social sciences, there are different conditions to come to a general rule. We cannot know all of these conditions. But for example, about the tree, about the mountain, about the water, there are conditions, but we can know many of these conditions. While in the social sciences, for example, maybe some society behaviors and the other society behavior in the different way. And there are many conditions we don't understand them. So the problem in the social sciences is more complex, more complicated from the natural sciences. The answer was related to a question?
Yes. But my question probably much more would be more clear. Is how to take a good representations. For instance, to observe or to find conclusions in observing. For example, in observing social behavior in a community, for instance.
What I have told you, it means that we cannot come to a generalization in social sciences. The objections which I illustrated in these two sections tell us that there isn't any generalization about the social sciences. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So
Yeah.
you mean that inductions
Yeah.
is much more compatible in natural sciences rather than in social sciences?
Exactly.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah. I must tell you about one fact, that here we are not going to reject the sciences. No, we don't have any, for example, for example, we don't want to reject this science. No, actually, we are going to discuss more exact. We don't have any motivation to reject the sciences, but we are going to discuss by some scientists that says that there there is one method, and this one method is nothing, just induction. We are going to say that induction is not so valid, which you are realized. No, there are many problems in the induction method, but we are going to obtain sciences, we are going to obtain generalization, we have motivation to have sciences. Here we are just going to discuss scientific discussions about the method. So when we reject the induction method, indeed, this is our problem too. I mean that if we are going to study about the nature, what would be our method to know the nature? We are not here going to just reject the, for example, induction, and for example, the scientists who defend the induction. We want just to refer to the problems which this method would be faced to. It is clear?
Yeah. To me.
Yes, no problem, no question. Other students?
So we must be careful to have or to come to general rules when
Yeah,
applying the induction, right?
yes. But there are other reaction about these problems. For example, some philosopher of sciences, such as Paul Feyerabend. Paul Feyerabend says that these objections show that there isn't any differences between scientific method and the magic method. You know that there are several people who are magic, yeah? Do something normal, yeah? Paul Feyerabend says that the magic, or the people who do magic, as we say that, for example, magician, the magician has their own method which is not valid for us, and the scientists have their own method which is not valid for us. And there isn't any differences between what magicians do and what scientists do. Yes? The book of Paul Feyerabend title is Against Method. The book of Paul Feyerabend is Against Method. And he says that there isn't any valid method for any sciences, but we don't believe in such an idea, in such a theory. Yes? Who says that why we don't believe in such an idea, such an idea?
I forget.
You know that Paul Feyerabend makes to us a claim, and we are rational beings, and we don't infirm, and we don't accept any idea without a reason, without a good reason. So if Paul Feyerabend wants us to accept his idea, he would bring several reasons. And you know, whenever Paul Feyerabend would bring us several reasons, he would use some method, but he speak about against method. And this is a big objection to Paul Feyerabend. Yes? It is clear?
Yes, for me.
Other brothers, it is clear? Or sister, it is clear?
Yes, Prof.
Clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
So up to here, we took several steps. For example, first, we said that induction is a method which some scientists said that it is the only method for scientific inquiry. But after illustrating this method, we came to reject it by several objections. After that, we saw that the defender of induction have rejected this objection. After that, we said that there is a big objection which they cannot answer to, and this is the objection of justification of induction. After that, we said that there is a way which Paul Feyerabend upon it said that there isn't any valid method. So we criticized him if there isn't any valid method, how I, as a scientist, would accept your idea. Do I have a good method upon which I accept your idea? And this make Paul Feyerabend in the big problem. We can say that this problem is dead-end or the way which its end is closed, and we cannot accept Paul Feyerabend's solution for this problem. But the question, and the main question, is that is there any other method for knowing about the nature as well as the social life or societies? The answer is yes. Some scientists brought several methods for knowing about the social life. One of the most important solutions is what Edmund Husserl has told to us. What Edmund Husserl said is phenomenology. Did you hear about phenomenology?
Yes, we have.
I do. I did.
In your classes or by yourself?
In various class.
My earlier class. My earliest level.
If you studied phenomenology, I will study another method, huh?
But I don't know the others,
Yes.
friends, maths.
So we don't speak about phenomenology.
Maybe not yet, Prof.
Yes,
In
we have
which,
to discuss about phenomenology, sir. We have to discuss.
Yeah, in which courses you studied about phenomenology?
Not yet. Not yet. In this course, not yet.
Not yet? No
Yes.
problem.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
In our course, yes.
Edmund Husserl said that upon the objections to induction, we came to one fact that the mere reality cannot be known because we don't have any valid method to the reality itself. But we have something which can study about them. We have several things which we can speak about it. It is not but phenomena. So if we don't have any observation, no problem. We have phenomena. But what he means by phenomena? You know that the word phenomena is plural. Phenomenon is the single word and the phenomena is the plural. So we are going to illustrate what he means by phenomenon. After that, we can understand what are phenomena. Yes? By phenomenon, He means that whenever I want to study anything, no differences between natural sciences or social sciences. If I'm going to study a theory, no problem. If I'm going to study a society, no problem. In both of these methods, I will take phenomenon. I mean that what it appears to my mind. What appears to my mind is very obvious to me. It is not observation, so that the objections come to us and you say that, for example, objection is not the same, objections are not so much, and so and so. Phenomenon is something to me, into my mind. So I have immediately accessity to the phenomenon. Phenomenon is very clear to me. There isn't any ambiguity. And if you say that maybe this phenomenon is not so clear, no problem. I will centralize on it again. And because I have immediately access to my phenomenon, I would tell you about it all I would know about my phenomenon. Yes? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But
Okay.
if we are going to centralize on the phenomena, what is the relation between phenomena and the external reality? Husserl says that we don't have any access to the external reality until we can compare between phenomena and external reality. And
Is it
if
mean,
so, we can
it mean
ask him,
subjective,
yeah?
sir? Is it mean the phenomena is subjective? Subjective.
Yeah, exactly. It is subjective, not objective. But the question is that what is the relation between phenomena and the external realities? And this is, the main question. He answered that because we don't have any immediate access to the external reality, we don't have any obvious answer to this question. We cannot say that phenomena and external reality are the same, or tell that they aren't the same. We don't know anything. So he asked us to do something. He asks us to take the question about external reality behind. We left the question and just centralized on the phenomena. He uses the word epoche, Unanian Greek word, epoche, Greek word. It means that don't pay attention to it. put it ahead. So for Edmund Husserl, the subject of all sciences, including social sciences, is the phenomenon. We can just speak about phenomenon. We are not going to speak about the external reality. Yes, it is obvious. So, if so, Edmund Husserl tries to clarification and illustrating and classification of phenomena. For example, he says that there is some phenomenon in my head, in my brain, or in my mind, which I refer to it by cause. And there is another phenomenon in my mind, which I refer to it by the word consequence. So the cause, in fact, the consequence, but both of them are in my mind. Both of them are subjective. None of them can say is objective. But you must pay attention to the fact that when we say that it is not external, it is not objective, we don't want to say that we understand that they are not objective. No, we are in doubt. We are in doubt whether the phenomena corresponds to the reality or not. Actually, we want to say that we are not going to answer about the objectivity of phenomena. Yeah, it is clear?
I'm sorry, Ustad.
Yes.
If phenomena is in the Farsi, zihniyat, it's not zihniyat.
In Farsi, we are saying padidar. Padidar.
Padideha.
Yeah, padidarha, padidarha. Yeah, padidarha. Or in other words, umur zehni. So, by phenomenology, Husserl give a solution to problems of induction. First, he wants to say that phenomena is something different from induction, so the objections to induction wouldn't be useful to our idea, to phenomenology. And in the second step, he wants to give some solution for knowing nature, for knowing social life, for knowing society. But how he can use the phenomenology to understand the subject of social sciences? He says that every researcher must do as I want to illustrate. He must record all he sees, all he hears, all he observes. First of all, he must record all his observations. And no problem that her or his observations are different from the other researchman, other researcher. No, no problem. He must record his own observations. For example, when I go to a mosque, I would say prayer and I would have some special sense, some special sense. But some other person would go to mosque and say prayer, but he has another sense. He wouldn't have the sense which is the same as my sense. Yes? So here I must record my own sense, and I wouldn't take care about other people's senses. After recording my own senses, I must, in the second step, analyze my senses, analyze what I have now, analyze my phenomena. In analyzing my phenomena, I would classification my own phenomena. Yes, it is clear?
Yes, I have some
Inshallah.
questions regarding this
Yes, please.
phenomena. What
Yeah.
does mean external reality? So
Yeah.
in these terms, I think we would back to controversy or debate between how do we receive those external realities. So it goes back to the debate between, for instance, rationalisms and empiricisms. Usual with his theory on phenomenology sounds like empiricist, because to capture the knowledge in this sense is would be or relies on the sense or empiric, yeah, the sensible thing, or you said the what we hear, what we taste, what we see at, and so on. So it's much more like empiricist.
Yes, yes.
Right.
This is a very exact notice. You know that whenever I'm faced to reality, I would have several senses and I would experience these senses. It is very good idea, very good note, but you must pay attention to the differences between phenomenology and induction. Here, Husserl wants to answer to the objections, and because of the answering to the previous objections, he says that we don't have any way to the external reality. So we don't have the same objections. Why? Because we don't have a good and valid way to the external world which make all observations the same. So we don't need to sameness of all observations. We just centralize or any person its own observations. Actually, he accepted the objection. He accepted and believed that observations of two people are very, very different. But if we ask Husserl, what is the relation between this phenomena and the reality? He says, I cannot speak the reality itself. I can speak about my own phenomena because I don't have any access to other things. I just have immediately access to all my phenomena. Yes?
Is it mean, sir? Is it mean that phenomenology used to perspective, subjective perspective and objective perspective? I mean,
Yeah. You know that
perspective
phenomenology is subjective. It is correct. Yes, it is the
Yes.
correct idea. But you know that
and there is some another perspective. So we have to there's an objective perspective too, sir, because the other see the same fact, of course. It is mean that the fact is the objective perspective and the opinion is the subjective perspective and the fact. Is it true?
no, Husserl rejects this idea. He says that when I want to infer several phenomena of other researchman, other person, I look at his phenomena from my perspective. Actually, I don't have any immediate access to other people's phenomena. Yes?
How about the fact? The fact.
No. In addition to the reality itself, I don't have any immediately access to other people's phenomena.
So there is no judgment for our knowledge. Yes.
Yeah. So if it is clear, there would appear a very difficult question to Husserl. The question is that if we don't have any immediate access to reality, and if we don't have any immediate access to other people's phenomena, how we can come to a generalization? You know that scientific method looks for generalization. Because
Maybe there is no generalization yet,
predication. Yeah.
Excuse me. Maybe there is no generalization in phenomenology. Maybe there is some convention, I think.
Yeah, but Husserl tries to give the way for us to come to generalizations. And phenomenology is the science which give us the method of generalization upon the phenomena. And it became very difficult for Husserl to give the way of generalization. And in the next session, I will talk about the ways which Husserl gives us for generalization. Yes?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, inshallah.
Yeah. No question? There isn't any question?
I have, but I think.
Yeah. Goodbye up to the next session.
Inshallah.
Bye.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Professor.
Thank you.
See you next week.
See you later.
See you later.
See you later, inshallah.
Goodbye.